The British breakfast aisle is no longer a place of honest butchery. It has become a dumping ground for industrial deception. The rustic images of family farms and rolling hills are now simply a marketing smokescreen for an industry that has fundamentally broken its bond of trust with the consumer. Here at Britfood Watch, we have uncovered the specific UK brands hiding the darkest secrets. We are not talking about budget aberrations found in the back of a freezer. We are talking about household staples, the family favourites sitting in your fridge right now. The industry has spent millions convincing you that pink slime is premium pork and that chemical binding agents are traditional ingredients. They are wrong. We have analysed the labels, decoded the chemical data, and tracked the supply chains that the supermarkets want to keep hidden, and you need to stay until the very end. The number one brand on this list is not a cheap knockoff. It is the most popular, trusted sausage brand in the UK, and what we found inside its casing is a complete fraud. These are the 6 UK sausage brands you must avoid. The label says the nation's favourite. The lab report calls it an emulsified paste. Richmond sausages are perhaps the greatest deception in the British breakfast aisle. While they trade on wholesome imagery of family dinners and Irish charm, the reality inside the casing is a masterclass in industrial chemistry, not butchery. This product barely qualifies as a sausage. Under UK law, a product must meet a minimum meat content to even carry the name pork sausage. Richmond skims the absolute bottom of that barrel with a pitiful 42% pork content. Let that sink in. When you buy a pack of these, more than half of what you are paying for is not meat. It is a slurry of filler designed to mimic the weight and feel of pork without the cost. The remaining 58% is a cheap bulking matrix of water, rusk, and fat. To force this wet mixture into a solid shape, the manufacturers have to deploy heavy-duty stabilizers. You are not eating ground meat. You are eating a chemistry experiment held together by diphosphates and guar gum. These agents bind water to fat, preventing the sausage from dissolving into a puddle in the pan. Even with these chemical binders, consumers report significant shrinkage during cooking. As the water evaporates, the illusion collapses, leaving you with a shriveled, sad remnant of a meal. The texture betrays the fraud immediately. A real sausage has a grind, a texture that tells your mouth you are eating muscle and fat. Richmond sausages are notoriously smooth, a polite way of saying mushy. Critics describe them as pork-flavoured meat tubes or processed meat-like substances. The texture is closer to a pate or a paste than a sausage, achieved by pulverising the ingredients until they lose all structural integrity. Soya protein. Concentrate is added not for nutrition, but to bulk out the texture where the actual meat is missing. The real danger lies in the hidden sodium. To compensate for the blandness of the filler ingredients, these sausages are loaded with salt. At over 2.2 grams of salt per 100 grams, they are dangerously high in sodium. Considering these are frequently marketed towards families and children, that figure is alarming. You are feeding the next generation a salt bomb wrapped in a collagen casing. It is low in protein, high in additives, and chemically engineered to fool your palate. Do not fall for the nation's favourite branding. It is a lie. Waitrose Essential British Pork Sausages. If a brand sells itself on high welfare and middle-class morality, why is the ingredient list indistinguishable from a budget discounter? Waitrose relies on a halo effect. You walk into their store, surrounded by organic produce and artisanal bread, and you assume the essential line is simply a no-frills version of that same quality. You are wrong. The clean, minimalist white packaging is perhaps the most effective greenwashing tool in the British supermarket industry. It screams purity. It suggests a product stripped back to its honest basics. But if you strip back the marketing, you find a product that is chemically engineered, not butchered. The Essential range is a filler fiasco wrapped in fine typography. While the meat content hovers around the legal baseline, a shocking proportion of this sausage, nearly 1/3, is a matrix of water, wheat flour, and chemical binders. You are paying the Waitrose premium for what is effectively wet bread. To keep this diluted mixture from falling apart, they rely on diphosphates E450. This is a chemical agent used to bind water to meat protein artificially. In simple terms, they are pumping the product full of water and using chemicals to make sure you pay for that water by weight. But the deception gets more toxic. These sausages are loaded with sulfites, specifically sodium metabisulfite. This is a known preservative that maintains that fresh pink colour, but it comes at a cost. Sulfites are a potent allergen capable of triggering asthma attacks and gastric distress in sensitive individuals. While Waitrose markets itself as the healthy, conscious choice, they are selling you a product laced with additives that many health-conscious consumers actively try to avoid. The purity paradox here is staggering. Waitrose has successfully convinced the public that essential means staple. In reality, it means industrial. The vague sourcing and the reliance on EU and non-EU labelling loopholes further amplify the deceit. They are trading on a reputation for transparency while selling you an opaque, processed commodity. Do not let the posh font fool you. This is not a butcher's sausage. It is a mass-produced, water-injected product hiding behind a veneer of respectability. The package says quality. The chemistry says profit. The label says premium. The ingredient list says cheap filler. Heck has built its entire brand on being the healthy, high-meat alternative to the industry sludge. They cultivated a fiercely loyal following among fitness enthusiasts and keto dieters, promising a product that was pure, protein-heavy, and free from the starchy junk found elsewhere. But that promise has been quietly broken. What happened at Heck is a classic case of the recipe bait and switch. For years, consumers trusted Heck as the safe haven for low-carb eating. Then, without fanfare or a warning sticker, the formula changed. They silently reformulated key lines, including their flagship Chicken Italia and the supposed 97% pork range. The expensive meat binders vanished, replaced by cheaper bulking agents like pea flour and rice flour. This was a deliberate bait and reformulation. This was not a minor tweak. It was a nutritional betrayal. For customers relying on these sausages to stay in ketosis, the silent addition of starchy carbohydrates had real metabolic consequences. People were unknowingly spiking their blood sugar with what they thought was a safe protein source. The texture tells the story of this cheapening process. What used to be a firm, meaty bite has degraded into something critics now describe as rubbery, tough, and dry. The reviews are damning. Long-time buyers are calling the new formulation meat-flavored bread. By swapping out quality ingredients for pea fillers to cut costs, Heck has destabilized the very quality that made them famous. You are paying a premium price for a product that is increasingly indistinguishable from the mid-tier competition. The consistency is gone. You are no longer buying a reliable sausage, you are buying a gamble. One batch might be acceptable, the next feels like chewing on a yoga mat. The chicken sausages, once praised, are now blasted for having a texture that mimics pork, but with a flavour so subtle it is practically non-existent. It is a hollow shell of a product, coasting on a reputation it no longer deserves. Heck wants you to think they are the plucky underdog doing things differently. In reality, they are playing the exact same game as the big giants, cutting corners, cheapening ingredients, and hoping you will not notice the difference until you have already paid. Check the label on the back, because the front is lying to you. Authorities issued an urgent recall for 20 different products, yet the damage was already done. The case of Westmoreland Family Butchery is a terrifying reminder that a wholesome name is no guarantee of safety. French authorities ordered immediate destruction, and British authorities later recalled the products, but the harm had already been done. You see the words family butchery, and you imagine a local farm, a trusted butcher, and a short, transparent supply chain. You imagine safety. You are imagining a LIE. In October 2024, Westmoreland sausages became the face of a hidden poison scandal that rocked the UK food industry. These sausages were pulled from shelves in a panic, not because of taste, but because they had become a game of Russian roulette for allergy sufferers. The culprit was undeclared peanut contamination, a lethal oversight that turned a Sunday breakfast into a potential death sentence. This was not a random nut falling into a grinder. It goes much deeper. Westmoreland was caught up in the massive FGS ingredients scandal, a supply chain disaster where mustard powder, a standard ingredient in sausage seasoning, was laced with peanut dust. The label said mustard. The laboratory tests said anaphylactic shock. For consumers with peanut allergies, this is the ultimate betrayal. You rely on labels to keep you alive. When a brand like Westmoreland, which trades on trust and heritage, outsources its seasonings to massive unregulated global suppliers, it imports the risk directly into your kitchen. They sacrificed control for convenience. The scale of this negligence is breathtaking. This was not a tiny, isolated batch. It was part of a nationwide crisis affecting 20 different products. It proves that even brands that sound most local are often just final assembly points for global ingredients that have not been properly vetted. The danger is invisible. You cannot see peanut dust in a cooked sausage. You cannot taste it through the salt and fat. The first warning you get is your throat closing up. Westmoreland Family Butchery promised a traditional, safe meal. Instead, they served a hidden industrial hazard. They trusted a compromised supply chain, and in doing so, they gambled with your life. Do not let the rustic packaging fool you. The ingredients inside are a mystery even to the people selling them. Number 5, Edwards of Conwy sausage. Sold for years as a heritage product, recalled in an instant for hidden contamination. You pay double the price for Edwards of Conwy. You walk past the budget options, past the mid-tier brands, and you reach for this premium package because you believe the extra cost buys you safety. You believe that heritage implies care. But in September 2021, that belief was proven dangerously wrong. This brand is a darling of the high-end supermarket shelf. They market themselves on artisanal quality and Welsh butchery tradition. Yet they were forced to issue a humiliated recall for their flagship 400-gram traditional pork sausages. The reason was the presence of undeclared wheat. For the average consumer, this might seem like a minor labelling error. For a coeliac or someone with a severe wheat allergy, it is a loaded weapon. This is the ultimate betrayal of the premium promise. Consumers with autoimmune conditions often flock to higher-end brands, trusting that better factory standards mean better segregation of ingredients. Edwards of Conwy shattered that trust. They allowed gluten, a potent immune trigger for thousands of people, to slip into a product where the label explicitly suggested it should not be. This was not a case of may contain traces. The allergen was there, it was real, and it was hidden. How does this happen in a facility that charges premium prices? It points to a fundamental failure in factory separation. It suggests a production line where ingredients are not strictly controlled, where the traditional method might just be a euphemism for sloppy. If wheat can migrate into a batch where it is not declared, what else is crossing the line? We are taught that expensive means safer. We are taught that if we pay more, we get a product that has been checked, double-checked, and handled with white gloves. Edwards of Conwy proved that price is no shield against negligence. They took your money, promised you quality, and handed you a potential medical emergency. When you see that award-winning sticker, ask yourself, does it stand for quality control or just good marketing? Because when the recall notice goes out, the awards do not matter. The only thing that matters is the hidden allergen on your plate. Hidden dairy traces contaminating a meat grinder. That is the invisible threat lurking inside this so-called honest product. The label says honest. The lab report says negligence. This is the brand that was supposed to be different. The Jolly Hog pitches itself as the antidote to the corporate sludge we have just listed. They present themselves as the three brothers, the trendsetters, the artisanal heroes, saving you from the grey paste of the supermarket giants. But in September 2025, that hero narrative collapsed. The Jolly Hog was forced to recall leek porkers after the presence of undeclared milk. For a brand that trades heavily on transparency and honest food, this is a catastrophic failure. Milk is a primary allergen. It is not a trivial trace element, and for those with severe dairy allergies, it is a life-threatening toxin. When you buy a sausage labelled pork and leek, you are entering a contract of trust. You assume the ingredients are exactly what is written on the front. You do not expect a hidden dose of dairy that could send you to the hospital. This incident reveals the regulatory outlaw lurking behind the friendly branding. It exposes the dangerous growing pains of a company scaling up too fast. As the Jolly Hog expanded to fill the shelves of Tesco and Sainsbury's, their honest manufacturing process lost control. They sacrificed the precision of the butcher's block for the volume of the factory line, and the result was cross-contamination. The betrayal here hurts more because the expectations were higher. Shoppers pay a significant premium for Jolly Hog specifically to avoid the sloppy, mass-produced errors of brands like Richmond or Waitrose. They buy into the story of the three brothers. But this recall proves that story is just marketing. Under the hood, the machinery is just as prone to dangerous negligence as the industrial giants they claim to be better than. This is the allergen ambush. You think you are buying a safe, specialist product. In reality, you are buying a product where ingredient separation has failed. The leeks and pork are diluted not just with binders, but with the incompetence of a supply chain that cannot keep milk out of a meat grinder. Trust is the most expensive ingredient in any sausage, and the Jolly Hog just sold yours down the river. Did you know about this? Or have you been feeding your family these favourites without a second thought? The industry relies on your silence. They rely on you grabbing the same packet every week, ignoring the shrinking weight, the grey texture, and the chemical aftertaste. But now you know the truth. You know that premium often means polluted, and that family favourite is just a code word for maximum profit, minimum nutrition. We want to hear from you. Have you found foreign objects in your food? Have you noticed the texture of your usual brand turning to mush? Tell us in the comments below. Your reports help us track the decline. If you are tired of being lied to by the food industry, you know what to do. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. We are Brit Food Watch, and we will see you in the next investigation.